I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is finally the playoffs of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League, where only 24 of the world's strongest players remain. No more convoluted tournament formats and math to figure out who needs what. It's very, very straightforward. If you lose your best of 3, you're eliminated. If you win your best of 3 match, then you advance to the round of 16, where your next opponent is waiting. You can see all the pairings on here. I'm gonna scroll through real quick. You can also see that we have already our first casualty of the tournament in the form of none other than the reigning world champion Dani Angelat, who was eliminated by my teammate Yanis Ansens. And we're gonna have one more casualty today. Either Posse 118 of Czechia or easttung of Hong Kong are going to be leaving this tournament, and the winner will be advancing to the second playoff round, where VisitorQ of Catalonia is going to be already waiting them. The chances definitely favor the Czech master here. He is in good shape. He won the Mind Sports Olympiad bronze medal a couple of weeks ago, has a high peak rating, currently rated over 700. easttung also in decent shape. As you can see, rated 630 now. But their peak rating is a little bit lower, and overall they have less experience in tournament situations, so they have quite a lot of Carcassonne knowledge just sometimes in crucial moments, especially in endgames. We've seen sometimes nerves taking the best of them, so let's see if they manage today to withstand the onslaught of the Czech master. Although in order to do that, they first need to withstand the onslaught of the alarm clock, because the match was due to start 2 minutes ago, but it hasn't started yet. It is somewhat concerning, although easttung is online and Posse is online. I presume that we're going to get our match going in due course. In any case, so whilst we wait, I'm just gonna leave these pairings here. Oh, look at this, there's so many players still left that I still need to scroll through so that you can see all of them. So feel free to explore that. Hi Napalm, congrats on your win yesterday. Hi Ian. And let's just update the page again. Oh, wait. Okay, that's all good. So we're having a match postponed for 5 minutes. And that's probably more time to just explore the players' stats. Both with a pretty similar 1,500 games of experience. You can see the Czech players' win rate is actually quite formidable, although there's a bit of a difference. The win percentage is really not that big of a factor, because it can sometimes demonstrate who you're playing against and how you're choosing your opponent, rather than how often do you actually win against strong opponents. So one of the best players in the world, Pintatron, Takafumi Mochizuki, has a win rate of, I think, around 60%, just because he plays only masters. But still, stats definitely favor the Czech player here, who's currently went offline. Hi Nalaheim. Yeah, but do let me know in the chat who y'all will be rooting for. And I don't know, or let's actually just wait in silence. Like, we don't necessarily need to fill anything. I'm just gonna keep refreshing and refreshing and refreshing. But that thing that I said, do let me know in the chat who you're rooting for. I'm always interested. With that, at this time of day, I typically get more viewers from East Asia rather than Europe. Although, if you ask me, it's now an excellent time for it's an excellent time to be working from home, in air quotes, in Europe. Maybe like being in a meeting and having this stream in the background. Oh, thank you for checking Takafumi's win rate. which is now around 70%, which is still, by the way, lower than the majority of top players, because he still plays only Masters. Yeah, and I'm definitely responsible for increasing his win rate by quite a bit when we used to play. Okay, so we see that Pavel's now online, which is great. So the match is going to happen after all. Also interesting to see like which players are, you know, general board game lovers and which are focused on Carcassonne. You can see easttung basically played only Carcassonne, at least with this account. Let's see if this focus is going to help him. Well, this is actually also true for Possy, really, because they haven't really played any other games that much at all. So in that regard, very similar stats. Right, start. 2-turn game. No. Okay, I think he has accidentally created a turn-based game against Possy. So they just need to realize that they need to change the settings. Yeah, I don't think we quite have, what does it say? 1 move per 2 days. I don't think we have that much time. Although I would love to break a stream record someday. And as much as I love yapping, I think even I won't find ways how to fill that much time. Alright, so the game has been cancelled. Now we expect a new table to be created soon enough. And this gives us time to ingest some more hot liquids. There we go, finally. Oh, look at this! Because they created this table, the turn-based table, Possy lost like 20 rating points. That's so unfortunate. I mean, I don't think he cares about rating that much, and neither do I, but because they... Like, if you quit a game, then you not only lose the rating as if you were to lose that game, but you also lose 10 extra penalty points. And so what they had to do, they just had to mutually agree to abandon the game. But anyway, these are just technical details. It does not really matter that much. Although it's really nice to be like over 700 rated for psychological reasons, because that 7 kind of looks pretty, and then you're just remind everybody that you're a master and maybe your opponent is not. Now, it looks like both opponents are closer to each other in level. In any case, the game has started. The Czech player with the red meeples, easttung with the green meeples. Czechia has the starting advantage. 4 points for the city already happened. And bit of an awkward tile. Easttung started a new city over here. Then that move was a little bit interesting, let's say this. And it looks like the delay with the completing his city here will end up costing the player from Hong Kong, as of course Possy will invade. The only thing he's thinking whether to invade from this side or from that side, and it's going to be a really marginal difference, and I'm going to tell that invading from here is a little bit better, because that makes this city a little bit safer. But Red disagrees, or maybe doesn't see a significant difference. There is probably a difference of like a fraction of win percentage point. Yeah, so this move here from green seemed to be a bit of an over-application of the principle of two cities. Like, this extender is quite an awkward tile. You really want to start moving it towards completion as early as possible, so he just had to do this, really. And then with the city cap, get himself his 6 points. So now an advantage for red, but still it's early in the game. Green now takes road in a rather risky place, but that's okay. There's no easy way to block it. Although probably as green, I wouldn't even bother with the road. I would just go and create an attacking platform against red. No, but but this road, it can grow substantially. For example, with a couple of curves. I think what he's going for is an 8-point loop. The only issue that I see is that 3 starting tiles have gone, and so let's say if he goes for this loop idea, which has been disrupted, then there are going to be 2 sensitive squares here and here that could be blocked toward the starting tile. But in any case, green continues his city and starts a new one, finally equalizes on the scoreboard. Plus C with the first mana share of the game and a couple of good spots. So this certainly looks really strong. 3 points, controlling green city, and a piece of road which is later meepleable. But he likes to take his time, still find his highest scoring and best move positionally. Easttung now with a curve and looking between this move, which would free up his road meeple, give it some flexibility, or maybe doing this one, trying to put pressure on that square. So holes like these are quite double-edged. So normally you can think of them as quite vulnerable, but then if you get yourself a road monastery, it's like the perfect spot for it. So sometimes what happens, like you get a curve, and you put it there to make your meeple less vulnerable, and then you draw the road monastery on the next turn, and then it can go here and score only 4 points. And then that's disappointing. So it's very tricky actually how to develop these early roads. I think green is now doing a pretty decent job. They're putting a bit of pressure on this square. Boissy now with a great move, trying to block everything. He's trying to block this square. And he's also trying to block this square. And he can make green have 2 blocked meeples, and he can have himself only 1 blocked meeple, but he'll develop it into like a 10-point ruin. Easttung simply takes a meeple back and the lead on the scoreboard. Now we're gonna see the block. Which has just happened. Green, though, still with a chance to bail out with one of the splitters. But all red needs to do is just something like this. Score a couple of points. Maybe not now. Ooh, there's a better move, yeah. So there are 3 good moves. One is just finishing the city at the bottom. The second one is taking 2 points over here and trying to eliminate that opportunity to split this meeple and save it with a completed 6-point city. The downside of this move here is the fact that it leaves us a city cap open, which you normally don't want to do this early in the game to avoid your opponent from scoring, to prevent your opponent from scoring or to avoid your opponent scoring. But there's an even stronger move, and this is not that one, it's this one over here. Covering up the blocked road off green and starting a new city. So this would still preserve the principle of 2 cities. This would be very strong positionally, and if we can cut this road early, then we can make sure that it loses maybe 5 or 6 points, because there's so many road tiles remaining that green can ultimately extend his road so much that it will be worth investment of a meeple, and we had a chance to prevent this. But then the reason why I have so much issue with this move is that I can see the point of it. So it still wants to take care of that square, not allow a splitter, and not allow the separation of the city. But what I don't like is that it gives zero chance of permanently blocking the square. And ultimately, this meeple will get himself a triple city tile or a quadruple city tile and join the ruin. For example, right now. And when you try and block this square, you really want to create the threat of not only disallowing the splitter, but also disallowing this, because this ruin can be worth quite a bit. So I think here an imprecision by the Czech master, who also gets his monastery blocked as a result of the sequence by easttung, so the players are equal on meeples. Red is ahead on the scoreboard, but it's a very, very even position, slight advantage to the Czech player due to his cities which are close to completion. Easttung starts a new city and puts pressure on Red's square here. Note that this was the last starting tile that had just been drawn. And since there are no more of these guys remaining in the deck, this opens many, many blocking opportunities. It basically reduces the number of tiles that players need to spend on blocking if they do it right. Imagine if a situation occurs where Red does not get a city cap. And then we can go here with a straight line, here, here, here. So 4 tiles to block. 1 to create a platform, 1 to create a restriction, 1 to create a threat for a permanent block, and 1 to complete the permanent block, kind of taking advantage of the fact that, you know, there are no starting tiles remaining. Normally, of course, we would also need to go here and build up with 6 tiles before permanently blocking the meeples. And saving those extra 2 tiles is crucial. This also will need that players will need to take extra caution in building their city. And you can see already easttung sort of trying to cover up his city, which, by the way, pays off. Because from his perspective, there were still many city plus field city caps in the deck, exactly like this. And he takes advantage of one of those and renews his lead on the scoreboard. Easttung tries to break the city of Red. This is actually really smart. And normally this wouldn't be a great move, but it is a great move because there are no starting tiles remaining. So first of all, it will take longer for Red to draw a tile here. And second, Green has a platform to create the blocking threat organically. Like, Green doesn't need to do anything. He just needs to build his own city normally, score the 4 points, and then this will naturally create a blocking platform against this square. So this is what you typically want to do in Carcassonne, because I know that sometimes newer players, or not like complete beginners, but intermediate level players sort of have these questions. Okay, when do I block? When do I get my own points? And ideally, you want to do both. You want to try and build your features in places where they obstruct your opponent's features. And if you block, you also want to do it in such a way that also scores points, if you can. And Green can indeed. Another straight line for Bossy. Half of the straight line tiles have already been drawn. No great move. He could, of course, start a road. It seems to be not particularly useful. And here he decides to create a blocking platform against Green, which is a great idea. Not only is he threatening to obstruct the meeple, but he's also, with this move, is indirectly protecting his own meeple. Because let's say if you can get a curve that goes here, then the longer this meeple waits for a tile to fill the square, the longer this guy can feel safe, because there's no threat of being blocked from this platform here. Very often the best defense from a block is a counter block. Hi, Andres. Easttung with a chance to start a new city. It's actually quite not obvious what to do. Probably the equity move is just to do this, add a road point, start a new city, then you can allow yourself to get blocked, but there's still 3 tiles that fit into that square. I don't think there's much to think about for the Czech master. But it's very interesting now. So of course there are still 3 tiles that fit there, but statistically, this guy will be waiting for his tile much longer than this guy now. Because here, any city plus road tile is suitable. And then what's going to happen, that red's going to draw that tile, and then red is going to create a threat of a permanent block from the south. You might ask the question, well, what does green do about it? And the answer is nothing. There isn't anything that you can do about this, unless you, because any attempt to do something about this would make things worse. So in theory, you could go here as green and try and create the platform to block this square regardless toward the starting tile. But if you do so, then you yourself going to get blocked like this. There are plenty of tiles that save the meeple for red and block the meeple for green. You could also go here in theory, prolonging red city to try and restrict the square from the other side, but there's no real good restriction available and you will be adding points to your opponent. So that's why the player from Hong Kong picks the best strategy, and this is to simply draw his tile before his opponent does so. And look at this, and Posey doesn't get a defense tile. Oh, it has to get mad. Well, actually, he kind of has a defense tile, but he decides to use it for scoring. Can't blame him at all. Easttung will now successfully complete his block. Also, a bit of an interesting sequence of moves. So this monastery is something that I did not comment on. Green started a 5-point monastery instead of a 6-point monastery, which is a bit of a puzzling decision for me. The effect of this monastery, and I assume that this is something that Green was going for, was the fact that it creates a 9-point field, which is a bit dubious because from Green's perspective, he was the one with the long-term meeple slight disadvantage, with a slight long-term meeple disadvantage, so it made sense for him to keep the position a bit more closed. But then there's another field at the bottom for 6 points, which he chooses to meeple. And now it's an excellent chance for Posey to maybe take a stronghold on that 9-point field and try to claim that his counter farmer is better than this main farmer. Now, this field does not look big, but I think what Green is banking on is a curvy tile here that would expand this field and bring all these green squares, and then this city would also be in Green's field as well. This can be easily prevented with a straight line, in which case this farmer is rather sad. In the meantime, Pavel completes a 12-point city, which is hitherto the highest scoring feature that has been completed, and enjoys a comfortable 13-point lead, and he shouldn't really be feeling too sad about the fact that his meeple is blocked. It is more than enough to compensate the scoreboard. No, how do I say this? The scoreboard difference is more than enough to compensate the blocked meeple. And on top of that, he can still keep building here and adding points. There's also a very neat building pattern that he can go for, like a bunch of triple cities like this, or extenders, going here and trying to cover up the green squares in Green's field with his ruin. It's a lovely double purpose pattern that sometimes is available. In the meantime, some more shielded tiles for the Czech player. That's already his 4th shielded tile of the game. I'm of course not counting those. Easttung just scores 2 points. There were some other options available, maybe going for this 5-point road. Chooses to simply cash in on the existing points. Now an interesting decision for red, a variety of moves available. He could go here and take the 9-point field. Looks more than enticing. Or he could go here and start breaking red city. And again, given a green city, and given the fact that 4 starting tiles have gone out, any blocking moves is a bit more potent than it normally would have been. He decides to go for the 9-point farmer first. We also find out that the block would not have worked, as green has a city cap and would have had a city cap that fits even with a restriction. Road Monastery for Poissy. Some lovely spots available on the board. He could actually even go here, expanding his field, but this wouldn't really be in his interest because he would be also inviting green to a big field fight. Yeah, this is also quite instructive. So if he goes here, he would be initially bringing in the city into the field, but then suddenly green gets a curve and then unifies all the farmers, and there's suddenly a 18-point field available, and you're in a long-term meeple disadvantage in what you're going to do then. So for him, it's probably better to keep this field at 9 points, and maybe just meeple the monastery like a normal monastery here, for example, looks very, very strong for 6 points. Pre-building a 3-point road, and great chances to complete the monastery. Some mildly vulnerable squares, but not something to be too worried. There's another 5-point spot here, which is less confrontational. It controls a nice 3-point road that you can pick up with the crossroads later. So some healthy options to choose from. He could, of course, just take 2 points, which is not bad, but I think it's a bit unambitious. So what you really want to do in this position is just score a bit more so that your opponent cannot catch you up with the scoreboard unless they draw an obscene number of city caps for their field. But let's see what the checkmaster decides. They just scored 2 points, which is a bit surprising and not the style that I expected. A monastery certainly would have been fun to watch. Easttung invade the city. Quite timely, as another 8-pointer would have hurt the Hong Kongers' chances. Red with a cow tile, thinking of maybe going here, just expanding his ruin, and then this would also catapult that field restriction building strategy that I was talking about. Not that it is super likely with only 1 extender tile. No, actually 0 extender tiles remaining, but there's some triple city tiles. He goes with a field restriction, which makes a lot of sense. I think that is a little bit premature, because there's still tiles that fit into that square, and that's the problem that I have with that move. So if he wants to restrict the field, it's probably better to actually go here, restrict the greenest of the green squares, and then also leave himself a chance to continue his ruin, and leave a chance to draw a straight line and permanently block off that field. Because what this move does, even though it makes life more difficult for green, ultimately green is likely to get a tile that goes here, and in the endgame he will do it. He will use this tile to expand his field and bring in this city. Yeah, and generally when I'm thinking of field restrictions, if you're playing a field restriction move, you want to start with the best green square of your opponent, and this green square is the unrestrictedest. So if we just can cut that off first, then that would have been nice. Yeah, because you see now any city caps goes here, And imagine if there's no tile here. There's actually not that many city caps that can go there pretty well. I guess the best one would be the horizontal splitter that goes like this. That'll be quite annoying to deal with. But then this would also make a field invasion pretty easy. 2 quick points for the Czech player. None of the players are going to miss their chances to score. Now green can equalize the city on the right. There's no rush with that necessarily, because there are no splitters remaining, so these two meeples have already tied their fates together. So actually it's not necessarily the worst idea to just go here. No, not here, not here. I don't think it quite works. Yeah, just finishing the city makes a lot of sense. There's now another 6-point field for either party to use. Red still with a comfortable 9-point lead. And the position is so closed that I don't really see a realistic path for green back into the game without using an obscene number of city caps, or a tile exactly like this, which should go here with stacking meeples just in a heartbeat. And then there are various patterns how he can build them up, set up some more monasteries. And the beauty of having a monastery like this is the fact that these monasteries control all the green squares of this field guy. So this guy will likely either stay at 9 points, which is still not nothing, but 9 is better than 12, better than 15, better than 18. And if red is going to develop his field, he will be forced to help green's monasteries, which is also a good scenario for the Czech player, because this will make it more likely. No, wait, no, it's good for the player from Hong Kong who's going to meeple the monasteries and complete those monasteries. And the reason why it's good, oh, no. Yeah, this move, even though it makes a lot of sense, is a severe strategic error. And many players don't know this because they think, okay, there's a 9-point field, it's the most point that I can take, so I'm going to attack this field. But they're not thinking about a variety of factors. So first of all, equalizing the field is not enough. When you're behind on the scoreboard, unless the field is really, really big, which it isn't, it doesn't even exceed the scoreboard difference. You need to score features in such a way that gives you a meeple back. And stacking monasteries was vital. And another issue is that he's creating a bigger field to fight for, which he was aware. I don't think it's an oversight. It was completely conscious. And he's doing so in a position where he has a meeple minority. Because you see, this monastery, you don't think of this monastery as blocked, but it still needs 4 tiles to complete itself. And in the long term, whilst this monastery is built up, and by the way, it's also quite unlikely now that this monastery is going to get completed because green simply will not have time to draw all the tiles. Now that he's building only 1 monastery, he will be scoring only 1 tile per move, as opposed to 2 points per move, or 2 points per tile. Because again, if you stack, then each tile that you place is worth 2 points, because you're building up 2 monasteries. Now that this is not the case, there's less incentive of actually building up this monastery, and there could be not enough time. And even if there's enough time, it's going to take, well, 4 moves. 4 moves spent at a meeple disadvantage, which benefit the side that has the meeples, and these meeples will be used to claim control of not 9, but a 15-point field already. Green is now dropping another 6-point farmer. which doesn't seem to be accomplishing much because I don't see this farmer penetrating that place very easily. And in fact, Poissy can just go here if he so chooses. I don't think he has to. He can just go here, continue his ruin, and also eliminate the threats of this city cap being scored, or maybe just going here. That's also fine. That's probably even better, a bit more precise. Either of these moves are fine. Green is developing his field at the bottom, which is of course great for green. But we're running out of city caps that he can drop there. And note that because of this square, maybe that was actually the sneaky idea of Poissy. Because of this square being fillable, if red chooses, red can drop a farmer here at any time and try and invade the field at the bottom through this square, through one of the two remaining dagger tiles that fit there. Actually, no, only one remaining dagger tile because of this. Yeah, so it's a great, great position for the Czech player. Poissy now with a curve. Okay, we can see what easttung is doing. He's trying to make this move work. So his idea is to invade this field and not let this guy to reinvade. But even if that were to happen, it should be completely fine for Poissy. Okay, we're going to have a 9-point field tied. This guy going to have a 6-point field for himself. There is now another fields connection platform potentially. Well, actually, if there are enough tiles, wait a second, there's a way to unify all farms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's still one curve remaining. Imagine this. A curve goes here with, let's say, a green farmer. Then we invade the field like this. And then we get the dagger tile and bring in this big farmer. So maybe this represents a bit of a chance. We can also continue with our plan and go here. Yep, exactly, restrict that square, not allowing this guy easy re-invasions. And then we're planning to draw a monastery tile that goes here. And invade with this guy. Hey, this is pretty interesting. So I wonder, with 10 tiles remaining, is it enough? Like, should we just go all in right now? And go here and drop a farmer and carry out that plan? We would be missing out on some scoring opportunities from Crossroads, of which there are 2 remaining, so he chooses not to do it just yet. But then this was also the last curve. So this opportunity is simply no longer present. It seems to me that the Hong Konger is playing a game which would make sense if the score were equal. Some prophylactic moves. But in reality, he should be playing this game like his clothes are on fire. Because there are only 9 tiles remaining, you need to come up with something big. And there's still some real chances. So some other options included maybe just going here and pre-building a loop road, and also maybe trying to finish his monastery. Because there's still 2 monastery tiles remaining, and you can put one over here to complete the fields connection. And then you can put another one here to score 7 points. So there was an option to make that setup. Red with a straight line, contemplating whether it's worth invading the bottom field. It's definitely worth it points wise, as this guy's already scoring 9 points and still has a chance to score 12 as a result of this dagger. But when it comes to the probabilities, is it worth it? So he needs to calculate quite carefully what are the chances of invasion through one of these squares. And can he afford getting blocked? A lot of road tiles have gone out, including all the 9 curves. And if I remember correctly, 7 straight lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 1 straight line only remaining, so he chooses not to invade. This move is not understandable for me at all. Maybe he has some sneaky idea that I just don't see, but this eliminates a field attacking platform and also even expands the field of green by a little bit. So it's difficult for me to see how this benefit reds. I think the only way how this can potentially benefit red is creating a longer road, which he can meeple on his last move using his meeple majority. So that's the only explanation that I see. Now a scoring tile for Poissy. Again, a variety of options. He could either go for 2 points, or again, he could go for a farmer like this, trying to connect through one of the road tiles. But he goes for 2 points because he really feels that his lead is comfortable and he just does not need to do anything special. So easttung gets himself an invasion tile, trying to decide whether it's worth to go here. It probably is. There's still 2 monasteries remaining for this guy, which is a bit sad, but you know what you're gonna do. There are also some blocking tiles available against that square. Wait, there's also one more vanilla. Yeah, so this square is actually quite easily filled. This is also why with this move over here, yeah, look at this. It's just rather painful. So this move here, had it been placed over here, it would have allowed green to prepare the completion of a monastery with another monastery. And it also would have preserved them 1 more green square to try and score 7 points. So this farmer is now completely restricted, and he doesn't have a field where he can drop this guy. He can't even drop it here. This field is also closed for 6 points, which, yeah, he dropped it in a different way, which makes some sense because he was thinking of setting up scoring with a dagger. Poissy with a city cap, looking to maybe block that square, or just drop a farmer somewhere. He goes for the farmer, which makes a lot of sense, but at least 1 point will be picked up by the Hong Konger. And I think I see Green's plan now regarding this field. So he wants to delay the invasion for as long as possible, so that all the tiles that fit for these 2 squares are drawn, and then with the last monastery he's going to invade, so as not to allow this guy to re-invade in time. Some quick points for both opponents. The gap on the scoreboard is widening. Well, now easttung gets a monastery. And I guess it's time to go for it. Like, what are we gonna do? We just have to hope that her opponent does not get the last monastery. And it's a 17-point move. Like, it's really difficult to deny that. A lot of points. A lot of points. We could delay that move, actually. We could go here. And then we could make the 17 points where it's all the same when it comes to that endgame. Ideally, of course, we want to just do it. And then Posse gets the dagger to score some points. And will easttung get the last monastery? Because he needs to get the last monastery, and he does not. So all this field effort is going to be actually in vain. Because with his last tile, yep, red is going to re-invade. So this farmer was just strategically brilliant. And the scoreboard difference is going to be pretty big. And it will reflect the pace of this game quite well. I felt like the Czech master had control of the situation long term, and the Hong Konger was not able to find his path back into the game, which was really connected by building up monasteries, which by the way also would have worked. He did later get the tiles to develop and develop and develop. So it seems to be that with a deficit on the scoreboard, which wasn't even that big, it was created by these two cities, so nothing much that Green could have done about those two. Yeah, the way you come back into the game, if your opponent has a scoreboard leads, you just want to do something similar what your opponent did, and then some. Both players are ready for the second game. No break is going to happen. We just only have a few seconds to update the score. And let's see if easttung can put up a bit of a fight here. He's now the starting player and starts with a monastery, which definitely helps. Immediately equalized by Green. The first city tile of the game belongs to Red. Start a new city, but 3 points on the scoreboard for Posse, together with an obstruction of said city. easttung with the Dorito tile and some interesting options. He could just make a normal move like this, which is what I would go for, but he could also go for the content move and go for the self-invasion and simply try and brute force a completed city with the majority of 2 meeples, and this would just be a high risk, high reward situation. So if he gets his meeples blocked, he gets himself not 1 but 2 meeples blocked. But then if he completes the city, he gets a lot of points, and because he already has 2 meeples on it, his opponent typically cannot invade. With this particular pattern, with that tile, I would not self-invade, but I would not make that move either. You really, really, really want to finish the connection here as soon as possible. So I think this move needed to be played because there's so many tiles that can fit into this square that can both start bothering this guy and bothering this square. For example, a Dorito with a road can easily go here, start blocking the square, and then also invade that city. Then another idea that I really like for red, after you go here, this square is a bit annoying to deal with for green because green ideally wants to invade that city, but now he can't because there's suddenly a vulnerability, so there would be this platform on the left. In any case, this idea has long gone. Red is building new cities near his monastery, but it is the Czech player's monastery which is better developed at the moment. And now, red with a bit of an awkward tile. He built up his monastery, which makes sense, but it also eliminates a juicy monastery spot, creates some vulnerabilities in his cities. Yeah, also the issue that I have with this move is the fact that now red has 2 cities open that require the same completion pattern. Like, he just needs loads of Doritos elsewhere. So if this tile were a city cap, then the position would be very, very different. But now it's quite awkward to build. And red with another difficult move now, because green is creating a threat, so yeah, red tries to address it and even build a third city, potentially invading here or maybe building some sort of obstruction. And it looks like we're headed into a good position for the green player here. His meeples are just more harmoniously placed and easier to develop. Gets himself 3 more points on the scoreboard. Straight line for easttung. That's actually a great tile. He can use it to start a new road, and this is important that he do so. Yeah, that is quite a sizable mistake, I'm afraid. Well, it makes some sense, right? Because he, first of all, is trying to prevent his meeple here from getting blocked. If it doesn't do anything, then there's a combo of moves, such as a curve plus a Dorito, that gets this square blocked. And he does this. But the issue with that move is that this monastery square that he has just created is incomparably better for green than for red. So if green goes here, then of course he takes all the points, and he's now controlling 3 meeples of red. Now if red goes here, if he gets a monastery, he still has to go here, but then he's gonna have 4 meeples in a vulnerable position subject to a block. So red actually has to hope that he does not draw a monastery, but he gets one of these city or road tiles, preferably city tiles, before a monastery is drawn. There was another reason why placing this move was so important. Because of the city threat over here, green could have drawn a Dorito tile to place in that square, kind of preventing that threat from the top, and then trying to set up himself a regular Dorito for the completion of the city. So as soon as possible, you need to go here. Well, not right now, because you've already you put yourself into this position. So you need to go here as red to try and disallow that sequence. Because imagine if the tile is placed here, right? So green goes here to try and set up the city, but then bam, we go here and block green. So it's important to set up that blocking platform in advance so that your opponent is forced to draw the city completion tile in the sequence this first and this, so south first, north later, right? But now if we don't do anything, your opponent can draw the tile for the north square first and the tile for the south square later. So he has twice as many tile combinations to finish his city successfully before getting blocked. In the meantime, green is just doing fantastic. He has a monastery almost completed at the expense of this city guy, which is really clunky and will need a lot of time before this city turns into a real threat. It might never even turn into a real threat. And then, of course, this setup over here is just very frightening for all of our Hong Kong fans, or it should be frightening. Yeah, Possi keeps putting pressure, and we get, from Red's perspective, a fantastic tile, but we need it in multiple places. So probably as Red, we really want to go here and just eliminate the variance, close down the square, allow this meeple to get hurt, but then we'll be able to get a defense tile. But we also kind of need the square here, because it would be nice to turn this city into a threat. So let's see what Red chooses here. There are no ideal options. Nalaheim is saying, I would argue it's better to make a blocking platform on the northern square instead of the southern one of the green city. So referring to this grid over here. In this position, yes, and this is exactly what red was trying to do. But my main comments were addressing the situation when this tile was not here. So there was no access to create a blocking platform against this. And look at what happened. So red did not place a tile in this square, and as a result, they faced the consequences. Just 9 points for free. Posse takes advantage of the monastery square that was so generously created for him by red, and with that, a great advantage for the Czech player. And also, look, so this is the kind of stuff that I was talking about like 20 moves ago. This is the exact kind of stuff that we have to disallow. If only a straight line were over here, this move from green would not have been possible, because then we would have been able to go here. But now we need to spend an extra move to try and go here and block the square, but this allows Posse to get a defense tile, which he will now probably use here, or maybe not. Maybe instead of saving his meeple, he could just go here and block red's meeple instead. This would be also quite powerful. And given the fact that he's already in a good position when it comes to the scoreboard, he maybe even can afford to lose this meeple. Green is really taking their time here, as they should. So it's really, well, it's actually between 3 moves. So one is going over here, which protects his meeple, but then it also allows easttung to make a easy re-invasion. Also, we can't really place a second green meeple here, because there are only 2 cow tiles remaining that fit into the square, only 2 triple cities, and a 75% chance is just not good enough in a position this promising for green. So it has to be between this without a meeple, between this, restricting that square and almost sentencing this meeple to a life of seclusion, or maybe even here, delaying that move, but trying to protect his own city at the top. And this move probably has to be my favorite. So if this move were something like a city cap, if this were, let's say, a right-handed dagger, then it's a no-brainer. Then it just goes here. We have ourselves a 75% chance, and it's a fantastic position to be in. But here, on the other hand, if we go here, and this is something that must be going through green's mind, and our opponent draws a city cap and goes here, then they have only 1 meeple left for a sizable chunk of the game. And also, they don't have to draw a city cap immediately, which is exactly what happens. So green is planning to draw another city cap and cover up his city. And now red is trying to delay that as soon as possible, and he is even okay with blocking his own 3-point meeple in the process. It was a tricky decision for the Czech player, and it completely pays off, as I really struggle to recommend moves for red here. Well, I know what I can recommend after this block here, which is actually quite smart. Red has to draw a splitter tile to try and threaten his city at the top, because this square is now blocked and it's almost tied to this meeple. Green, in the meantime, is pressuring. There's only 1 tile that fits into this square, but red is pressuring green. There are only 3 tiles that left into this square. And now a defense tile is drawn, so this square is nicely protected. easttung with a fantastic tile that gets him to both finish the road and equalize the city. A huge sigh of relief for all our fans from Hong Kong. This is probably like the best tile in the deck that he could draw. Proceed with a scoring tile. He could go here and take 2 points, but it's also quite tempting to go here. Starts restricting this meeple, and then also pre-build a road which goes through his own city. He wants to avoid variance. He wants to take the immediate points, as he has shown time and time again. And now red with a difficult decision. So ideally you want to go here and get yourself a meeple back, but then this meeple gets immediately blocked. But what you have to realize is that this guy basically never survives. There's no way how you can build around safely enough without threatening a block. So first of all, there's only one starting tile remaining. If you do get the starting tile and put it over here, your opponent immediately gets a curve and blocks this square. If you fill this square first, let's say with a regular Dorito, your opponent gets another Dorito and blocks this square. So you might as well just roll the dice, go here, get yourself a meeple back, maybe leave yourself a small chance that this guy somehow doesn't get blocked. But at the very least have some meeples in hands to play with. Because very often, if you try to get married too much to the idea of freeing up your own meeples, you get your other meeples frozen in the process, and that's really something that red cannot afford. Red's position is still playable, like going here, getting a meeple back. Yeah, and this is exactly what he does. He was just trying to figure out a way to make this work on the scoreboard. And look at this, somehow green does not find a blocking tile, so there's even a teeny tiny chance of this meeple getting recovered. It's still a great tile for green as he gets to start a new city and restrict this square now. A monastery for easttung, which he now correctly uses to score. You absolutely have to do it. Pussy gets the splitter, which means that the idea of turning this guy into a threat is not going to work. So this will be a ruin. It will still score decently with a quadruple city tile going over here, perhaps, but nowhere near as powerful as a completable city. And in general, that's one fewer thing for green to worry about for the duration of the game. 32 tiles remaining, still 3 meeples to play with. Green can in theory go here and block the square, but I don't think it's worth it. He's probably going to go here and start putting additional pressure on this square, or maybe even going over here could be more powerful, pre-building his city here, protecting this square which is more vulnerable, and also putting the pressure on red here. Red, fortunately, gets a city cap tile, but the downside of that city cap tile, which still has to be used here, of course, is the fact that it has a road end. And so this sort of pre-builds a road for green. But there's really nothing much that we can do about that. Normally, you want to meeple roads like these in anticipation, but he simply does not have the meeples to do so. So instead he meeples a field, which actually makes a lot of sense, because upon the completion of Green's city, this field will be worth a lot. Green can just continue with his cities. One of his cities, which is a move that we're gonna see, goes for the bottom one. Since this city is in red's field, it is less important to complete that. Now an interesting tile for easttung. So this is the perfect tile to go here and develop his ruin, but he also wants to prevent your opponent from getting meeples back, and I'm really not sure what the priorities are. So if you go here, it's really strong, it's really annoying, but it's a 6-point sacrifice. So you're denying yourself 4, and you're giving 2 to your opponent. And they can still get a meeple back. And given my position, I really want to score, I'm probably going here, and then I'm just trying to draw a different tile to go on this square. The advantage of this move, though, is that it's indirectly... Okay. That move makes sense, but I think he chose the wrong city to be blocking. Because there's actually no threat of this city being blocked. Yeah, I've made this mistake before in in-person play. So let's kind of zoom in here. So what Posse's going to do now? He's just going to try and slowly build this up with Doritos. And then, like, what are you going to do as red? At some point, you'll just have to use your last meeple and invade. So this really does not disrupt Green City that much. You just build and build and build and build. Or even, you know what? He can even just go with a bunch of city caps. You can just build the city quite blatantly. And there's really not a lot that easttung can do. So if you were to break this city, at the very least, there's a realistic chance of actually blocking that meeple. Here, it's only a matter of time. It's just so unlikely for this guy to get blocked. Maybe red could go here and try and break it a little bit, but there's still 2 dagger tiles remaining that fit into that square. So ultimately, this city will be a threat. It's a reasonable move to make, but typically you want to make a move like this with more meeples so that you can actually do something about that city if it becomes a threat of completion. Green, in the meantime, finds a fantastic move, drops a 3-point farmer, and then pre-build a super long road that goes through Green City. That will give him 8 points for the city, 6 points for a road, and the unification of the field. So that's a huge setup. And probably at this point, the winning chances of green are like around 90%. I know that we have an equal game on the scoreboard, but in reality it's almost an impossible position for red. But red finds an amazingly strong move. It was quite difficult to find the best block, but it just does everything. It prevents city caps from being drawn. It still keeps the meeple equality for a long time, and it also indirectly protects both of these squares and gives the backdoor chance of a city cap and a starting tile. So lovely stuff. Okay, easttung can now complete the breakage of that city. Now going over here will actually accomplish something. So maybe there are some chances. Well, actually, if red happens to draw all the dagger tiles, then there are some chances. Red could also build up his monastery and get a meeple back. And if he just goes here, then this move, this breaking move, will become quite justifiable. Hi, Glovier. All our neutral fans should be rooting for the Hong Konger. Oh no, no. Yeah, it is a massive mistake. So after all these blocking efforts, red draws the perfect tile from the deck, like the best tile, the single best tile that he could have hoped for. And then he uses it to simply score 2 points, unifying a 3-point city and a 5-point city of his opponent. He also uses it to get both sides a meeple back, but this actually does not benefit red, it benefits green. I don't think that red fully realized that they are the ones with the long-term meeple majority if they were to simply block this square. If they were simply to block this city. Now, what you can see green doing is just simply going to blatantly build the city at the bottom of city caps, creates a threat, and all red can do is just watch. So, and now we can also see from red's move why having more meeples in hand for both parties benefits green more than it benefits red. Because imagine if this tile were here, if this triple city tile were here, then this meeple would be basically broken, and red is actually quite close to recovering a meeple on his own. And so with just 2 more tiles, red could put himself in a situation where he would have the meeple majority. But now the opposite is going to happen. Bossy now covers up. I have no doubt that he's going to go over here and set up an unstoppable completion of a 16-point city. It's remarkable to watch how these seemingly small decisions have just huge swings in the entire game. Okay, greedy from the Czech player. I actually didn't see that idea. So instead of... Actually, I don't like this. I think it's unnecessarily greedy, and he could end up paying for that. So it's of course a very nice idea that he renews the threat of completing his city, while he also still has threats of completing the city at the bottom. But I'm wondering if that's asking a little bit too much, because if he just finishes his city at the bottom, then he already has a game decisive advantage. Like, he doesn't need the other one. But now that he's trying both of them, it gives more time for easttung to try and obstruct this square. And maybe, first of all, red can go here and deal with that threat. And given the fact that there's only one Dorito with the road remaining, yeah, or that, just don't meeple it. Just don't meeple it. We can't afford to be meepling it. Okay, he meepled it. Bossy would have finished his city already, but he's still creating the threat of completion, and this idea here worked like a charm. Red here is, of course, trying to equalize this city, which at an equal score makes a lot of sense. But his position is so difficult that I really think he needs to keep his meeple in hand. Oh, okay. Now I think we just see some panic from red. It's definitely like a psychological thing. Red could have simply gone here, freed up meeples for everybody. Well, actually, that would not have accomplished much. But we can see that the last starting tile has been drawn. This means that this meeple here is officially trapped. And there's now no point in trying to recover it anymore. But this move here, it hurts reds quite a bit. So first of all, it's a position where you really want to have meeples. Second, with 2 more monasteries remaining, you're actually not in a rush to complete this. What you want to be doing is setting up the completion of a monastery with another monastery. With 15 tiles remaining, 2 of them being monasteries, it's absolutely worth doing that. So this move actually disrupts his own monastery building. And given the fact that your opponent is threatening a huge city at the bottom, like, you need to have a meeple in hand to equalize it, which he now does. He's going to get himself a meeple back, and that's something. But Bossy gets himself a city cap tile, finishes the city at the bottom, and he's going to make the score extremely difficult for red. So now even drawing all the 3 dagger tiles for this square will probably not be enough. A 16-point city and a meeple back, but still a great tile for red. He can score get himself a bit closer on the scoreboard. With a lot of city caps, still something can be done. But it was, of course, quite likely that one of these daggers would be eventually drawn, and a 14-point move for the Czech player just makes... We should probably call it. I really don't see a scenario how Red can come back into this. Well, let's see. So Red maybe goes here and then tries to get a meeple back. And then what exactly? Okay, we can get a scoring tile for a 5-point road. That's fine. What else can we get? Maybe a triple city here and then an invasion here like this. There's just simply not enough tiles to accomplish all of that. So I think as Red, what we're doing here is we're just playing calmly and enjoying our last 5 or so minutes in this wonderful league. Just score 3 points or something. Or you can also go here, actually that's quite nice. Trying to go for this idea of drawing a city cap and invading and building a bigger city. But being behind is only half of a problem, and being behind with a meeple disadvantage is also only half of a problem. But being behind in a closed position, it's an even bigger problem because there are just simply no places to score. Poissy gets a 7-point monastery, which is of course blocked, but at this point you really don't need to have your meeples back. Well, let's see. Does Red keep fighting here? So the fighting move is to meeple this 5-point road and then hope for a road end on the next tile. There isn't anything higher scoring necessarily. You can even go here actually and hope for the same thing. Wouldn't quite be as powerful. You could also go for a 4-point loopy-loop. There are still a few curves remaining for that purpose. Well, by few I mean one, but there's also a dagger. Although the dagger he needs for the recovery of his meeple on the right. Yeah, tough, tough, tough. A scoring tile for the Czech player. Oh, I see a nasty, nasty move available to him. He can go here, meeple the field, and also block the road in the process. Oh, that would be so nasty. Let's see if the Czech master is feeling nasty here. I would certainly be inclined to do so. Because if you go here, you're taking out 2 road ends from your opponent. There's a road monastery and there is a T-shaped cross. Oh wait, no, there is no T-shaped crossroads. Well, there's still a road monastery though. So this is the move that we're most likely to see. Because it also exposes the city a little bit. Pavel still taking his time, trying to be precise. Already preparing for his next playoff match against VisitorQ of Catalonia, where I also believe he's going to be the favorite. Well, one hope that Hong Kongers could have, of course, is the clock. 1 minute remaining for Czechia here, and if Green starts daydreaming a bit too much, he can lose this on time. If the clock rules in the tournament are strict, he does drop the farmer as predicted. The orientation of the city tile is a bit different from what I expected, but there are some good reasons for this. Now we might even see another farmer from Green. Although it could be a little bit too early for that. But maybe going here, for example, that looks fairly strong to me. Although maybe we want to save a meeple to meeple this farm, because there's a 6-point farm in the center. Green is not happy with a mere plus 18 on the scoreboard. He wants more. Which is absolutely the attitude that you should have. Endless greed. Instead, he goes for a blocky move, easttung with immediate monastery. He's going to make it significantly closer towards the end. Well, finally a farming tile for Poissy. Probably looking to claim either this 6-pointer here or this 6-pointer. This happens to be the last curve of the game. He goes for the field at the bottom. He's stung with a chance to score a little bit. Maybe here or somewhere else. And the last tile remaining should be the Dorito with the road. Oh, there's 2 tiles remaining. So the Dorito with the road and something else. The Dorito with the road can be used to score this. Yeah, so the dagger, of course. We can see that red was going for an 8-point city and will not be successful. Green doesn't, whoops, miscounted a little bit. It was a regular Dorito instead of a Dorito with the road. Oh yeah, the Dorito with the road was drawn here by red. So rather convincing win for the Czech master, and really easttung here, having troubles from early in the opening. I think it all started with this decision and kind of very clunky monastery build up and a couple of crucial decisions. So what Green managed very well is just to steer the game into complicated positions, and one where he was able to outplay his opponent. Yeah, so there were just a lot of these early game difficulties that red had trouble surmounting. We will also notice that the score difference somehow is not even that great towards the end. Well, okay, I mean, 17, it is quite a lot at this level. But still, there were some decent chances for easttung throughout the game, and I think the crucial decision was with this tile. Like, this city at the bottom just had to be stopped. And it's a really interesting moment, like with these quadruple city tiles. It looks like it's breaking a city, but unless you follow it up, your opponent's just going to build and build and build and build, and then they will get that city eventually, and it will become even bigger, unless, of course, you actually break it. Yeah, very one-sided game as a result. Just a very big skill difference between the two players. Also, all congratulations to our Czech fans. Really, Pavel managed to deliver a strong performance, just creating a lot of threats everywhere. Whereas one of the issues for red here, even though he ended up meepling a monastery for himself and scoring a little bit towards the game, early on there weren't many threats in that position, so he actually never forced Green into making difficult decisions. So Green pretty much was left alone with just exploiting his meeple advantage or maybe exploiting some imprecisions from his opponent, not necessarily being under pressure. I guess the one tricky decision for green, which resulted into a great position for him with this move over here, it was not the best defense tile, but he correctly decided to go over here, and that's not an easy decision at all, not an easy spot, and this worked out like a charm, because later on, this tile, which green had set up ages and ages to go, like 40 tiles ago, was used by red over here instead of this square. So this means that this move earlier on, protecting his city and still kind of keeping the threat of its completion, this move helped green ultimately complete this city at the bottom. So it's very interesting how in Carcassonne, there are no two squares which are completely independent from one another. So a small move in one part of the board can impact a completely different situation in a different part of a board. Anyway, the match is now over. Time to update the scoreboard and look through our schedule and then go on with our days. So Posse moves on against VisitorQ to play in the round of 16. Tomorrow we have two matches as the Australian surprise with the screen and me got no skill is going to fight the reigning bronze medalist of the World Championship, Bogdan Kurkan, at 10:30 UTC. And we also have ourselves tomorrow an evening match where Leo da Vinci of Portugal is going to be playing Crocodile Fundy of the United States. Pretty equal matchup, and this one I have extra interest in because I'm going to be playing against the victor of that encounter, already waiting in the round of 16. And then there are a couple of other matches which are not. Whoa, 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 whoa! Look at this. Oh, we're also going to show that one. So I have 3 matches tomorrow. Taiwan against Thailand, 1300 UTC. Definitely an opportunity for me to misspeak a lot, but I'm gonna do my best. So 3 streams tomorrow. Be sure to join. If you're in case here for the first time, make sure to subscribe for more competitive content like this, competitive Carcassonne content like this. There's a lot of coming up. Make sure to meeple the like button for the algorithm. I'll just congratulate all our Czech fans again. Commiserations to all our Hong Kong fans again. Still a performance in the top half, in the top 20 of the tournament. Not too shabby and something to be quite proud of, to be in the top 20 performing players in the entire world. That's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.